Hey there, internet friends. Welcome to another episode of That Nerdy Site Show, a weekly podcast where the team members from That Nerdy Site get together to talk about our lives and all of the nerdy things we love about them. I'm your host, Trevor Starkey, and joining me as always, Cameron Abbott. How you doing, Cameron?
Hey, what's going on, everybody?
What's going on is today we're going to be talking about Monster Hunter Wilds. I said monster as in the cheese.
Are they meant like the Munsters, like the old TV show?
Yeah, or the Munsters. Monster Hunter Wilds, which I've been playing for the last week or so. And then Cameron sat down and watched Invincible Season 3. Are you thinking you're going to do like a spoiler chat of Invincible Season 3? Makes no difference to me since I've already read the
Oh, yeah,
series.
no, I think spoiler chat for sure.
Cool.
We'll do I can do spoiler free real quick, and the last bit will just be spoiler filled because honestly, at this point, if you haven't read the comic,
I would say we're 3 seasons in. We can just do
Yeah.
spoilers and be like, how does it hold up compared to the comic and all that stuff?
I have a lot to say because the conquest stuff from the comic is one of my favorite parts of the entire book, of the entire series, and so comparing those two things is very interesting.
Sure. And then, yeah, it'll be interesting because I've never played a Monster Hunter Wilds before, but you have, so you can kind of grill me to compare and contrast and whatnot. But yeah, so that's what we're going to be talking about today. Check the timestamps for where each of those topics hits. But yeah, if you like what you hear, please remember to like, subscribe, rate, review, share the podcast with your friends, all that fun stuff. So yes, Monster Hunter Wilds is my first time ever jumping into a Monster Hunter game. I think I mentioned maybe in last week's episode or at some point when you and I were talking, I mentioned that while the game was downloading, I had the realization of like, I probably should have just tried Monster Hunter World since like I had that from PlayStation Plus or something. I should have like done that rather than like buy a brand new game and jump in.
You also have access to Monster Hunter Rise on both the PS Plus collection and Game Pass.
Sure.
So.
Well, I don't have Game Pass right now. So.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, like there were options I had to like jump in a like risk-free Monster Hunter sentiment, and well, I'm fine that I ended up buying the game. This game is a 6 out of 10 for me, just right out the jump. I do not like it's fine. I appreciate that it probably has I know that it has its fans, given that it sold millions of copies in its first week. But yeah, this is not my cup of tea.
Never in a million years would I have pegged Monster Hunter as like a Trevor-ass franchise.
Yeah.
So the fact that you picked it up to begin with was shocking to me.
It was hey, I'm looking for something new to play, and hey,
something very new.
This is a like lauded franchise over the years. Let me jump in, see what this looks like. But yeah, this I'm Monster Hunter level 59. I've done all of the story missions in the game. I got a trophy today for having hunted pretty much every monster in the game. So I've done that.
And these are just the standard missions, right? Like you haven't gone up to the, I believe it's H level or H hunts, or there's
there's low risk and high risk.
And then there's
low rank and high rank.
High rank. Oh, sorry. And then there's G rank, which is the new, which was master rank in the World Series.
I don't know what that means.
It comes out post release, so it's
then yes, those aren't out yet.
Gotcha.
Yeah, they've not released like the next tier of difficulty post release yet. Yeah, this is there are, and again, I have zero context for how the rest of the game, but the way they were introduced in this, there are like your normal monsters, then there are guardian monsters in this area, which are like a higher tier, and then there are tempered monsters, which are basically like frenzied. They've got a frenzy virus thing going on, so they're the super high of what's available thus far. So I've been fighting lots of those, but yeah, there's 6 chapters of missions in the game. Credits roll after the first 3, and then you basically move from the low rank to high rank stuff for the post game kind of stuff. And I've also done chapters 4, 5, and 6. So I've done all of the story missions available. I think I've done all the side quests that are in the game as well. So I've done what the game has to offer in terms of like available content for me. I ended chapter 6, I think around hunt level 40. So did almost another 20 levels after that of just random hunts and side quests and stuff like that in the post game. I've got a handful of rarity level 7 gear. The highest rarity right now is level 8. I've got like one or two of those items. So I've seen what this game has to offer, and it's enough to know, yeah, this ain't for me.
For sure, yeah.
The thing I described to you the other day when you were here was this game is akin to like a Dark Souls or an Elden Ring to me in terms of like it doesn't tell you shit.
No, it does not.
I didn't finally start to mildly enjoy the game until like 2.5 chapters in all the story stuff, when I started looking up beginners tips guides and like what Monster Hunter Wilds doesn't tell you guides, and I watched like 5 or 6 of those and realized at that point, oh, the SOS flare system isn't just for like bringing in online multiplayer stuff. It can be used for AI, companions too, and you can
I believe that's
do a
new
hunt
in this game. So
if it is, cool. The game did not like clarify that, or if it did, it was like one minor quick screen in a like, hey, here's 4 slides to go through of the SOS flare mechanic that we're introducing. So yeah, that was fucking annoying because I did so many hunts just by myself. I once uncovering that, yeah, it made the game a little easier. Overall, I've only failed one quest, which is outright like, oh, I fainted 3 times and that was it. And that was like the highest level post game fighting the tempered version of like the boss character. And
Arkveld?
Yeah, Arkveld. And I didn't know if that's a spoiler or anything like that.
No, Arkveld's the cover monster, so everybody knows about it.
Okay. Arkveld out there running around, absorbing monster energy and stuff like that. The tempered version of it is like an 8-star ranking enemy in the game. And I defeated one in chapter 6 to like finish the game, but when attempting to do just kind of the free form one after that, made it like it's a particularly annoying one because he leaves a lot, so you have to like go track him back down and follow after him and stuff like that. And just he also has a lot of bullshit like insta kill things that just got me enough times that
for sure
that took me out. So but yeah, that's the only time I actually failed. I also was not happy with many of like the faintings that I had in various missions, because a lot of them were just absolute bullshit of like the thing I came to last night is I find myself fighting the UI and the camera far more than the monsters in this game. That is the biggest hunt that I'm on, is this UI is absolute shit. And the camera angles are like, when you're in there and like hacking, slashing away at the monsters, you can't see most of what the monster's doing, or you can't see like the monster backs away and now you have to like try and spin the camera around and they're able to get a shot off on me before I could even know where they went. Or like dodge roll out of the way or anything like that. So lots of bullshit on that front, which is annoying and never my cup of tea. And it is like it has that that Elden Ring or Dark Souls thing of like, oh, this is absolute bullshit, cheat, like nonsense. Not to the like degree of those games. Like this is a little bit more forgiving, but it is still the same bullshit that I hate in those games of like I've gotten very good at reading these monsters and like, okay, I'm gonna dodge roll out of the way. Oh, but suddenly the hitbox was much wider than what's actually shown on the screen, and I got blown across the map because I was 2 or 3 feet away from where the like environmental effects happened, and it still hit me. So not a fan of that kind of stuff. And yeah, I know you said like, oh, they've made like this is the best it's ever been for onboarding. The whole like campaign up through chapter 3 is effectively just like tutorial, but none of the tutorials are good. They're all just like, here's a little info screen of use this, like, hey, here's a thing you've unlocked and now use it. how do I use it? What do I use it for? What am I supposed to? The fact that you don't like capture a monster until the post game stuff is like, oh, that's a thing I can do. Okay. Yeah. I don't know what the fuck the difference is between a quest or an investigation or an assignment. Like because they're all just the same thing. I'm just going after and hunting a monster. Don't know what any of those differences mean, but they're there in my like quest list guide, and like, hey, you can choose which of these you want to do, and I'm like, fucking, what does I don't you've not told me what an investigation is or does. I finally found I can like on the map I can click a monster that's moving around and say set as quest or set as investigation. And because there was a trophy assigned for, do your first investigation, I was like, okay, I'll set as investigation. Did that, and it was the exact same as a fucking quest. So, like, what the hell was the point of this? Yeah. Not a fan, but I can see, like, it's mechanically, it's fine, which is why I'm giving it a 6 from everything. But yeah, definitely not my cup of tea. Definitely not a game I'm going to, spend too much more time in. It's very much been a podcast kind of game. There was a story there that was a whole bunch of nothing. Just like I can give you like broad strokes overview stuff, but it's just like the story is never the focus. They put far more effort into the food animations of this game than they did at the story at all. Food animations
because that's what people care about.
The monster intro cutscenes, like the first time you get introduced to a monster, those are the only things that seem they actually gave a shit about in terms of like
sounds about right.
Like talking to characters in the world, I was constantly encountering this case where like the monster, the person I'm talking to is just like mildly like stuttering, not stuttering, but like it's like their character model is constantly just like shifting up and down an inch. And I'm like, why is this? It's incredibly jarring just seeing a character you're talking to just constantly shaking, just like
that's weird.
Yeah. So I think I've said the bulk of my rant about the game. I'll throw it to you if you have any questions.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions for you. As somebody who Monster Hunter World was like my first Monster Hunter game, and I will tell you that. When I say, this is kind of breaking down like why I say even what you got is more accessible. In Monster Hunter World, you get notified like, oh, you got an item unlocked or something like that. It doesn't tell you anything about that. There's no tutorial about it. You're supposed to either talk to other people, like actual human beings about it, like friends that you know.
That's again, this is still 1,000,000,000% a game where they have to make videos of, here are things that Monster Hunter Wilds doesn't tell you.
Yeah. For sure. No, but even like that, when I say this is the most accessible it's ever been, it's also to a point where like I've already seen people online being like they've made it too easy for people. And that's just like people.
I mean, those are the same fucks that like think, hey, if you play Elden Ring with the summons, you're cheesing the game. And it's like, fuck you, you dumbass. They put them in the game for a reason. Shut the fuck up and go away. Like, your opinion doesn't matter. So the people that are like, this game's too easy, I don't have any
there's
like,
two schools
I don't
of those
give them
people.
any merit. Those are just dumbasses who are gatekeeping pieces of shit.
There are definitely the gatekeeping pieces of shit, but then there's also people who, how do I put it? They started off in like World or Rise, and they started off with their low ranks, and then their high ranks, and then their master ranks or G ranks. And then they get to a point where they've been doing that for the last couple of years, where all they're doing are these high-end hunts. And so they get to this new game for the first time, and they're dealing with, they're like, where's my challenge?
Yeah, it's the same.
It's the
Elden Ring. I'm playing New Game plus people that come in and are
little bit. I would say it's also like just generationally, people aren't prepared for like
I'm saying like the people who played like Bloodborne New Game plus and then came into Elden Ring and were like, wow, this game's easy. It's like, no, you've been playing the multi-hard level version of this game for a while. Shut up.
It's those, and a lot of people like myself or like other people who are currently playing this game are just like, hey, this is normal. Be friendly to people. Because that's another thing too, is that Monster Hunter is known for just like either being like, it's interesting. I've never had a toxic encounter, but I've heard tales of some toxic encounters of like the multiplayer experience. For the most part, because was such a niche game, longtime veterans are just really appreciative that people are enjoying the series, and don't care that it's been as streamlined as it has been. Not to say that it's streamlined, but as much as it has been. I think that there is a weirdness about the Monster Hunter team where they think that the obtuseness is part of its charm. Otherwise, I don't know why you come back to bad game design like this. It's there. The thing about Monster Hunter is that I was super into Monster Hunter, and then Dauntless came out, and Dauntless was doing a lot of the Monster Hunter stuff in a much more friendlier, actually streamlined manner that was fun and engaging. The problem with Dauntless is that it just didn't have enough content, especially it just didn't have enough, it just wasn't, like, the monster designs weren't as interesting, but also on top of that was, like, there were these, like, seeds of what could have been a story around it that just never fulfilled itself. I always fall off of these games because I am not the kind of person that, like, I want to go back. I'm not a big crafting person. And so I enjoy the hunt. I enjoy the aspects of, like, going out there for, like, these interesting, oddball, scripted encounters where, because this monster is now encountering this monster. World was big for that because it was the first time that monsters would interact with each other.
Mm-hmm.
And so seeing them fight each other, maybe taking down, your team splits off into two people each taking on each monster while they're fighting each other to try to take down both monsters was like a cool idea and concept and everything like that. Rise, I didn't put too much time into, but I love Monster Hunter for what it is, but I also know it's not what I want out of a game right now.
Yeah, there are a lot of, especially in the like end game hunts, that like a lot of the end game side quests are like, hey, take out both of these monsters.
Yeah.
And sometimes they are monsters that you will find like in combat with one another, but a lot of times they are also like, yeah, you might be able to like get them into combat with one another, but the much more common interaction for me was fight one monster, then go find and kill the other monster.
Yeah.
There is a location that they open up late in the game that has a couple specific side quests to it around like there's going to be multiple monsters in this map, and there's a giant gate that you can like close off, so you can use that gate in the environment to like separate the monsters so you can focus on one and leave the other one, alone. The gate eventually does like reopen, and then there's like a cooldown period before you can close it again. So so you might not take out the first monster before, but you'll get like a pretty good chunk of time where you can just kind of focus on that monster. But that's like the only kind of interesting use of that mechanic. There is, and this again goes into, I don't know what the fuck a quest versus investigation versus whatever else means, but there was introduced a blurb of text saying like, I can create my own quest where I can like go around a map and select the different monsters I want to fight on the map.
Cool.
So I can kind of like do my own of like, I want to fight this monster and then this monster, or, keep them both in the same quest and get, whatever rewards associated with that are. I know, but I haven't been I haven't been able to figure out how to really do that apart from when the game's like, hey, here's a chance, like here's a case where Arkveld is fighting some other monster. You can pick this one and go and fight them both, basically.
That's cool. In my case, investigations in World were you were tracking down a monster that would not really appear until you like did the hunt for them.
Nope, not that's not the
same. I mean,
like
here,
so maybe that comes into like the streamlining of it, because I can go to my quest giver and basically select any quest from the map, and the game will put me into that quest. There was maybe a period of a couple chapters. The game,
it says that they do that though, because it used to be you had to start at the mission board, and then that was your assignment that you picked up.
You're basically, it's just the mission board can move with you.
That's nice. Okay.
So she's there. usually at camp, but she's also out on the missions with you and out in the world.
This is Alma, right?
Alma,
your Hunter Association person?
Yeah. And so you can either check in with her and basically pick a quest from the list of things she's got, and it's just, okay, yep, I'm ready to start this quest now, and it takes you to whatever region that quest is in, and you can even select, which camp you want to start at, and it'll basically just fast travel you to that camp, and then you can kind of go from there. Or if you're out in the world, and this I think would be potentially the most interesting way to approach this game, if there weren't just huge swaths of emptiness and nothingness in it, or minor enemies, is if you just come across an enemy out in the open world, you can start hacking and slashing away at it for a little while, and then it will be like quest initiated kind of thing, and that's when your allies can come and join you. Well, that was another thing I did not discover until far too late. It was around the same time I learned that I can have, as a single player, I can have the AI allies join me. It was by default, that's a toggle on the UI you have to use to send off the SOS flare. But there is an option in the menus that you basically just auto send off the SOS flare anytime a quest starts. So that was another thing that was well, that's just a way better experience in general.
Yeah.
I can be out there and I'd be like, all right, I'm going to fight this thing, even though I'm not in an active quest or anything like that. And eventually the active quest will start and allies will join and help with the fight. But if I want them there with me from the beginning, I can do the same thing, but the enemy is right there in front of me. I'm going to pull up the map, click on that enemy's icon on the map, and say begin quest. And it starts right then and there. Those are the kind of some of the things that I imagine are a little bit more streamlined than probably how it's been in the past.
But yeah, it's still obtuse. The Monster Hunter series is known for just being ridiculously obtuse, whether it's its controller layout, whether it's everything about that. The fact that they give you, you mentioned, 24 weapons off the bat.
14 different weapons.
Yeah, 14 weapons off the bat, and you don't give you any kind of introduction to them.
Yeah, it's basically hey, here's a questionnaire of how do you like to play. Oh, based on your answers, here's a recommendation for you, and you can take that recommendation, and
because they recommend you Insect Glaive, right?
They recommended me Insect Glaive because I was I want to,
which is wild because that's a medium difficulty thing. I would never launch new players into using Insect Glaive.
It was I don't remember what the questions were, but it was basically I was treating it I play a rogue type in action games your Dragon Age 2 and Veilguard and stuff like that. So I want to be in and out quick, do some slashing, do some sneak attacky kind of stuff. And then it was do you want to be able to guard? I'm I don't know. I don't know how much guarding is going to actually help me in this game.
It depends on your playstyle for sure, but yeah.
Yeah.
And then you ended up going sword and shield, so you ended up guarding a lot.
Well, I ended up, after it recommended Insect Glaive, I was no, let's go with this dual swords thing, because that sounds way more like the rogue thing that I'm thinking of. And I did that for the first few chapters, and then I was all right, I'm gonna switch it up and see what this sword and shield option does. And that's what I ended up using for the most part throughout the rest of the campaign. I eventually started, in the post game, I started playing around with a hammer for a little bit. Mm-hmm. Mostly so I had a slashing weapon and a blunt weapon.
Yeah, to help out with some of those tougher armored monsters.
Yeah. Especially, because a couple of the last ones that I've fought were nothing on this enemy is weak against slashing. I had a bow at one point, but I almost never used it because when I did try and use it, it would be out of range. I'm then what the fuck is the point of the bow?
Yep.
This is wildly stupid.
Ranged weapons. In Monster Hunter now, using the mobile game, ranged weapons is fine, totally okay to use. But in the actual games themselves, I've never found them to be especially useful.
Yeah.
The only thing I recommend if you haven't tried it yet is to try out the Charge Blade. Because that lets you, it's the sword and shield that you then basically you do a bunch of combos. It fills up your power vials. You then put your sword into your shield and it turns into an axe.
I played around with that one in the training area. There is a little training area both at the beginning of the game when it gives you these little prompts. It's like, okay, hey, here you go ahead and like try out this weapon in the training area, and it'll give you like on screen, it'll give you like the prompts of like, hey, here are some recommended combos to do. Or in your initial base camp, there's a training area off to the side. Because, regardless of what weapon you choose, you have, like, the base version of each of those weapons at your disposal. So if you decide, hey, this one isn't working for me, I want to swap it out, you can do that, at basically no cost. If you've, like, gone and upgraded the first one you're using, that's, a sunk cost kind of thing. But, I in the post game, a shop opens up where you can use like your guild points to buy some like, weapons and stuff like that instead of having to craft them. And I picked up one thinking it was a sword and shield, and then finding it was a charge weapon, because that's another thing. Like the UI doesn't tell you what it is. It only has like the icon. And I'm like, well, that icon looks like a sword and a shield.
Yep.
Not realizing that the charge sword also has a sword and a shield. Like, it's just fucking stupid.
I rocked a charge blade for a long while.
Yeah,
I was in World. I was insect glaive. Then I went to longsword, which is the long ass katana weapons, and then I moved over to charge blade, and then back to long blades again.
So again, going back to this game doesn't tell you shit.
Yeah,
you telling me that my combos are charging up the vials tells me immediately more than the game did, because I'm just using these weapons, and I'm like, what the fuck are those vial things? What does that do?
When they fully charge up, that's when you transform and you do a ton more damage.
I mean, you can be in axe mode even without those vials charged up. I just didn't. I'm unaware that I'm doing a difference.
Because the game is bad at telling you things. There's no defense. I do not defend how obtuse Monster Hunter is. I did not I did the beta and I was like, oh, I forgot how obtuse this game is. I'm not really there right now. I'm not going to sink the $60, $70 that it's going to cost me to buy this game.
Yeah.
It's not within my means right now. But also, could I make that decision and cut back on maybe something else or cancel something else or do whatever else?
But it's not worth it.
But it wasn't worth it to me. Yeah. When I played the demo, I was like, the beta demo, whatever they were doing, I was like, this tells me it is exactly what I thought it was. And there was a point in time where I really would have been into this, but that's not right now for me.
Yeah.
And so when I heard you picked it up, I was like, first off, Trevor doing Monster Hunter at all, wild.
Yeah.
But you hopping into this, giving it a fair shot, you coming out of it being like, it's a 6 out of 10 for Trevor Starkey. It's I totally get that. I'm a little surprised you scored it that high, but that just kind of tells you the quality of the game itself. It's even though it's not for you, it's the higher quality of a game.
On our metric, that is a decent game.
Yeah.
I think this is a decent game. This next step down would be mediocre. I don't think it's a mediocre game. I don't like it. And I mean, for my personal experience, it is a bad game, which would be a 4 on our rating. But I'm giving this the benefit of the doubt of hey, this isn't to my taste. That doesn't mean...
But still, you sunk how many hours into it?
The game loop is, 40 some odd hours probably in the last week and change.
You giving it that bump up for you, I think is big.
Yeah.
So I think it also, so this is not us saying, hey, this is a bad game or anything, but this is just not.
It's very much I don't regret that I spent the $70 on it. And I now know, hey, I never need to buy another. I never need to play another Monster Hunter game. I can just let this fandom enjoy its nonsense and look at it and be like, have fun. I'm gonna go play things that I enjoy.
It's kind of like how I felt when people are getting pretty pumped up for Wilds, and the last trailer comes out, and I watched it, and I was like, that's a really cool trailer. I'm not picking up this game, but man, I'm really stoked for everybody who's gonna be able to sink their teeth into it and have a good time.
Yeah. I don't know, there's another thing is oh, you can have your Palico with you, or you cannot. And I'm like, why would you not want the Palico with you? I don't know what the point of that is.
I'm sorry, you don't want your best feline friend to be your your homie with you the entire time?
And mine is running around rocking a, Queen Elizabeth I looking ass outfit.
That's so cool.
Just so stupidly, you look like a fucking moron. But let's go.
Dude, making your Palico dress up in the most stupidest looking thing is a Monster Hunter pastime that I never get tired of.
Yeah. That's another, the what? I forget the term for it, but like you can change the look of your equipment, but still transmogrification.
Transmog, yeah.
Transmog. That like unlocks. I don't remember if it was after the like initial credits rolled or if it was after the like last chapter thing, but it's like, well, I'm not using that anyway. I did rock.
Listen, I had my Palico dressed up in what was tantamount to a white leather daddy outfit. You know those biker leather daddy outfits that are like, you know, I'm trying to think what was the band that was popular with them. But anyway, Judas Priest.
Okay.
Like not like gimp outfit, but like a leather.
I was thinking Village People.
Village People, yeah, biker leather daddy outfit.
Yeah.
It was that, but it was like the white Paluma. I don't know if it's in this one. It's it inflates its neck. It's fuzzy. It's like a bat creature. Anyway, the stuff you get out of him is supposed to be like Commandant, like Sky Captain gear, but it just looks like white leather daddy stuff, like biker leather daddy. And I used to dress my Palico up in that and just be like, have fun with that.
Easily the stupidest outfit that I had for my Palico was like an octopus. and basically a floating octopus. Like when it's basically an octopus head and then octopus like tentacles. But the tentacles don't like run on the ground. So like whatever magical equipment Gemma the Smithy has put into that is just making your Palico float as an octopus, as like a little squid ink octopus kind of thing. It's just like, this is so wildly stupid that I'm gonna go ahead and go with this for a while until I got like and some of it was largely like, oh, this is a better like level of gear for them, so I gave them the like Queen Elizabeth I looking thing.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, it's like, yeah, there's like a trophy for like, you know, go on 100 deployments with your Palico or whatever, and I'm like, and I see in the menus of like, have your Palico stay behind. I'm like, the fuck are they doing if they stay behind? What, like, why would I not want them with me? Especially because I've done a whole bunch of side quests that have like powered up their abilities and stuff like that, and they can heal me for more now or whatever. Another thing I loathe in fighting the UI is like, so it's, you basically have to push L1 and then select something on like the directional buttons to grind up your weapon to like restore its sharpness, or like the base level like options are like on the L1 and hold like push up on the D-pad, and you've got 4 options. One is the weapon grinding, one is the SOS flare, and then like left is optimal healing, and right is optimal status effect restore. Those are fine. Problem is, if you want to use like other ability or like other equipment or something like that, they've got to be mapped to another D-pad thing. And so if I've switched to my capture net, which is on the down D-pad, but then I don't remember to hit up D-pad, you know, back to get up there, when I try and do the like, you know, stick to the left to do the optimal healing option, I've instead pulled out my fishing rod. And it's like, which immediately has you slowly trudging along in the battlefield until you unequip it and then like figure out what stupid combination of buttons you need to push to get the thing you actually want to do. Similarly, this is one I complained about you the other day. Your item pack only allows like 15 different items, and so if you pick something up on the map and your pack is full, you get a full screen thing saying your pack is full while the game is still playing behind you and while the enemies and monsters are still attacking you behind you, and you have to like push 3 buttons at minimum to clear that from the screen. It's like, this is wildly fucking stupid and just absolutely terrible. I don't understand how the fuck anybody looks at that and says, yeah, this is the way we want to go. This is fun. And maybe it's different on PC. I don't know. Maybe is this a series that started on PC? I feel like this.
No, it started on the PSP.
Yeah. Oh, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, when I tell you it's obtuse, it's obtuse because this is an old ass series.
Yeah.
That's never fully like updated itself.
Yeah. So that kind of shit's annoying. I still don't know, even now, you know, at level 59, how the fuck to switch slinger ammo without just picking something new up on the map or doing a very obtuse, like, you can basically assign like one item to a shortcut to the square button. And to do that, you have to hold the button, hold L1, and then push like circle or triangle or something, like basically maybe square or circle to go left or right on your like list. And it's basically just like, okay, I gotta push that button over 17 times to find the ammo type I want to equip it to. But then I have no idea how to switch it back to the other ammo type that I wanted or whatever. So it's just like, I don't know what the fuck any of this is. And it's just, it's, again, the big takeaway I will have for this will always be, I fought the UI far more than I fought the monsters in this game, which feels like that's, so this should be UI Hunter Wilds.
Something like that, yeah.
Really. Because, just not an overall fun experience for me. Not like something I wildly regret. It's very much I regret it in as much as I could have learned all the things I've learned today for free. Sure. If I had just played one of the other games that I already have from a PlayStation Plus collection. But yeah. Oh, the another thing just in terms of like fighting the UI and the controls is that there's like, it is wildly unresponsive at times. Like, I think one of the new things in this is your secret or secret or whatever. It's your chocobo. The chocobo that you have that you basically are traversing the world around to, like, if you're in battle, you push something on the D-pad, like you push up on the D-pad or you push a button on the D-pad basically, and your secret will come to you, pick you up, and like basically give you, a chance to like breathe, reprieve. You can, sharpen your weapons while on the secret. You can heal up on the secret. You can change to your secondary weapon on the secret. And the problem I so often found was that like I would push the button and do the whistle for the secret, and nothing would happen. I'd just get like I would be sitting there waiting or trying to like roll out of the way of enemy attacks, and the secret just wouldn't come. So I'd have to like push the button again to like get him to actually
distract
like,
you
grab
from
me, pick me up, and
still
stuff
trying
like
to dodge out of the way for stuff.
And so I'm like, I did the thing you've told me. In one of the few things you told me how to do this, I've done the thing you told me to do, and it's not doing it.
This is the first time a secret's ever been in a Monster Hunter game, by the way.
Yeah.
Prior to this, Rise gave you the dog companion, but prior to that, there was no mounts. It was just all on foot. And so like this is still like they're still learning that, but I would think that after the dog and Rise, they'd have a better idea of this thing.
Yeah.
Granted, the Rise, these are also like, very different games as well, like within the Monster Hunter genre.
Like it mechanically, it seems like it's doing what it's supposed to do. It just doesn't do it consistently.
Got it. Okay.
Which is the like, because there are other times where like I can whistle while I'm like on the ground, like incapacitated, and it will still come and pick me up, which is it can be a very handy way to get out of the line of fire and stuff like that, as opposed to they're also just wildly like, it'll be like, to shake off this condition quicker, wiggle your stick, and it's like, I don't see that actually doing anything. Like you're telling me the only thing I actually saw have a noticeable impact was like, if I'm on fire and I dodge roll, the timer of how long I'm going to be on fire I see go from 15 to 5 seconds, and then again to nothing. So it's like, okay, I can see that one moving, but others it was just like, no, I don't think you're actually doing anything. So yeah, just not a good experience from a gameplay perspective, a nothing experience from a story perspective. And yeah, I didn't care. This will be like, I don't imagine this will be in my top 10, might stay in my top 20 come year end, depending on how many games I actually play this year and all that stuff. But yeah, not a fun time for this one. Thus far on the bottom of my list for game of the year consideration. And if you are one of those people that loves Monster Hunter Wilds, you're a fucking sicko, and I don't understand you at all.
Hey, it's all right. Sickos are sickos. You know, we gotta love them.
We don't have to.
Well, some of our friends are sickos, Trevor.
That doesn't mean I have to love them.
But you already do love them.
I don't know.
Is finding out they're a Monster Hunter sicko somehow like make them not your friend anymore?
It might. I mean, it can certainly be in the conversation. Oh, I can go to San Francisco and see some of them. I don't know, they were Monster Hunter sickos. I think I'm gonna just not.
Watch out, Joey.
Yeah. All right. Let's slot over to Invincible Season 3, unless you have any final questions.
No, we're good. We're good.
Yeah.
I'm still gonna play it. Although I will say, I don't know how much longer I'm gonna play Monster Hunter now. After it got bought out by the Saudi group, who's to say how the quality of life that game's got in it? So. Yeah,
I mean, as somebody who still plays Monopoly Go all the time, which is
so they're owned by the same,
owned by Scopely. Yeah. Just expect a bajillion more microtransaction pop-ups and shit.
But it's just crazy because
every time I hop into that game, I get at least 3 before I even play the game. So
yeah, Monster Hunter now is weirdly everything for their microtransactions is extremely expensive, and there's 6 things. That's it. There's nothing else in the game other than those 6 things, because the rest of it's just you need to get those items by hunting monsters.
I mean, that's Monopoly Go too. Is hey, here's buy a whole bunch of dice, or buy whatever little random minigame currency we've thrown in for this limited time event, because we're gonna prey on your FOMO, and you want to get all the rewards that you can get. Right. So spend all your money on us 3 times
so
before
expect
you can actually
that,
play
basically.
Yeah, it's going to be fucking terrible. Rest in peace, Pokemon Go and Monster Hunter Now and all the other stuff. Anyway, so yeah, let's hop over to Invincible Season 3.
Yeah.
Tell me your thoughts here. It's definitely a show still on my radar to sit down and catch up on, but just hasn't been calling to me, as I haven't really been focusing on TV or watching of stuff apart from that D+ show stuff. So
yeah, what I will say,
I don't even remember where we left off.
We left off where it was Amber and Mark had broken up.
The female Vitruvian, whose name I forget, just came and beat the shit out of Mark. Right?
Yes.
Okay.
Viltrumite, by the way. Yeah.
Viltrumite. Sorry.
You're good.
My way to say Vitruvian. Yeah. Whatever.
All good. You haven't watched it and you haven't read this.
It's been a while. Yeah.
Yeah. The whole so it's after that Mark's given the warning that, hey, you've now inherited your dad's job. And this, of course, is the season where all of a sudden Mark's life that he's trying to keep put together, whether it's his family that now has a new baby brother, his mom's decided to take in Oliver as an infant, and Oliver at this point in the season, at least second half of the season, is now a young boy. There's the whole thing with the fact that he's single, he's has feelings for Eve. He just had to do with the Angstrom sending him into the future, seeing that, and future Eve giving him a talk, being like, "Hey, tell old me how you actually feel, because there was way too much will they, won't they, for me to be okay with not telling you this." And that's kind of where we pick it back up, is that this is the season where we get the invasion of Invincibles. Angstrom getting all the multiverse Invincibles into this current multiverse, or this current universe, to ruin Mark's life. This is a build-up to that over the course of the season. You have a lot of Oliver getting his powers. You have the Molar twins' death at the hands of Oliver happening. You have a lot of the build-up. You have the fallout with... even before that, sorry. First or second episode, you have the fallout between Cecil and Mark, ending with Mark going on that race against Cecil. Cecil's trying to catch up to Mark. When after he's pushed the button on the thing that is making Mark's head explode basically from the inside. And he gets to the Guardians. The Guardians have a whole face down with Cecil. And it's the fallout of like which of the Guardians side with Cecil about that chip that was in Invincible's head versus those that don't. Rex leads those that don't to then become the new, go back to the teen squad headquarters to then build up their new team. with some stuff happening over the course. Monster Girl and Robot finally they're already together, but this is where Robot introduces the belt that will keep Monster Girl from de-aging every time she uses her powers. Like everybody basically is getting like upgrades in their relationship or their lives. Rex has become a better person, which isn't hard because the bar was in the ocean for Rex, and so, but it's getting raised along with like his by changing up the Shrink Ray character.
Yeah, I saw that they have. I saw a little clip that was like a cool little suit up sequence of the two of them together.
Yes, there's a lot of by not having her die to the Serpent Society. In that fight happening, not having her die let her come back and kind of be a catalyst for change for Rex to make it a much more of an easier and believable transition of his character. And that he's feeling motivated. And there's a lot of great moments of people just being people, like the superheroes trying to just be people in this season. That's really, really good. Mark is trying to figure out like, what is he going to do now? This is where he gets introduced. He gets put on retainer for the prison. That's brought up. You have
Is that still with Eve basically like running the show there?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
The great thing about it is that because we're not talking about issues to issues, you're not spending a year's worth of issues of Mark doing this job. It's a couple episodes before the prison gets attacked by the giant dragon from the Order.
Cool.
So we get to the like invasion of the Invincibles. Awesome sequence. Like these 2 episodes are just really, really cool. To me, I would have considered that to be like the season finale. But Conquest shows up, as he does in the comics, right after that. Conquest is voiced by Jeffrey Dean Morgan.
Okay.
I would never have thought of Jeffrey Dean Morgan for Conquest, but I always imagine Conquest being a bit more like gritted and like, hard, like old man, hard to speak kind of voice that I would have imagined for him when I read the comic books years ago. Mm-hmm. Jeffrey Dean Morgan's like silky smooth, but like rugged voice is perfect. The way he delivers these lines is just like poetry. It's incredible. The fight between the two of them, shades of Omni-Man versus Invincible, the cataclysmic damage that occurs. I will say, because I knew it was happening, I know for people who they didn't read the comic book, so they didn't expect to see kind of like the quote unquote casualty list. It felt like I can see people being very much like taken aback by the levels of destruction that they have. Oh, sorry, I got ahead of myself. There's one other section that they do. Aaron Paul is I'm trying to remember his name, but it's the villain whose sister and niece are killed in Chicago. He gets the implants that every time because he has a low level like kinetic conversion to energy power. That's like super not that big deal, but he ends up doing this whole thing. It's a revenge plot line along the timing of a year from the memorial of the Chicago incident with his dad. And this is also playing up where Oliver wants to be Kid Omni-Man.
Real quick on the Aaron Paul stuff. I remember, I'm sad they didn't go this way, because I remember seeing fan casting of Aaron Paul as, I forget the character, but it's basically like Aaron Paul and Bryan Cranston as the guy who, when he gets so bored, becomes the T-Rex.
Yeah.
And basically like Aaron Paul is the guy and Bryan Cranston is the T-Rex form.
That would have been really cool.
I think it would have been a very fun pairing, and I appreciate that fan casting. Sorry they didn't go for it. Yeah. And as I understand it, the Invincible team have reached out to Bryan Cranston every year to try and like bring him into the show and have him play somebody, and he has not taken the bait yet. So,
dude, listen, if they get Bryan Cranston to become the Viceroy, the leader of the Viltrumites, that'd be sick as hell. The Freddie Mercury looking guy. Love.
You just described most Viltrumites.
That's true. That is true. Most Viltrumites do look like Freddie Mercury. Even the women. But yeah, it's the what was I going to say? Sorry. The plot line of that, of like Mark dealing with grief, of like Oliver wants to be Kid Omni-Man and asks the question like, didn't Dad save so many more people before? And it's like, Mark's like, yeah, if we really want to tally up, Dad has definitely saved more people than he killed, but like he still killed people. And it kind of like is that big plot point of Mark trying to, like, he feels like he on some level has forgiven his father, but he also knows on some level he can never forgive his father. And also he knows that society can never forgive his father. Mm-hmm. And like, how do you balance that out with somebody that you love that's done this terrible thing, but you also know has grown from it? Like Nolan's desperate anger at Mark and saying, don't you understand I'm not supposed to feel this way about people? Like, my time on Earth has changed me. Like, I shouldn't have been changed. I've conquered hundreds of planets. I've, killed thousands of civilizations. I shouldn't feel this way about just a planet out there in the middle of nowhere. I compared the wife who I now miss and love, who I realize now, like, I love, like, immensely. I compared her to having a pet to our son. Like, there's layers to the complexity of Nolan's character as he grows from the introduction of him being the ultimate bad guy, of that aspect of it, and it's like this, like, it's heartbreaking, but at the same time, we saw what Nolan did and what he forced Mark to do. He put Mark in front of a train full of people and forced Mark to be the blunt instrument that murdered them. That's season 1. Like, that happened.
Yep.
Well, there's a point in the fight where Conquest basically does the same thing just for the kicks and giggles of it. Conquest is one of those best fights that you'll ever have because he really just is the desire for destruction. The desire to destroy something. When he tells Mark, I don't want you to, like, oh, I'm glad that this is how it's going down. I'm glad that this is, like, you don't have the planet prepared for us. I'm glad that this is the case. He goes, they didn't send me because, they expected you to succeed. They sent me because they anticipated you would fail. And Jeffrey Dean Morgan just is destroying these lines. Pitch perfect. Just like buttery smooth coming off of it. But at the same time, on a like serial killer level of smooth, like that, like, you're scary. It's coming across very well, but you are very, very scary because of it.
Yeah, I mean, he's always very much been a character who doesn't give a shit that, like, the Viltrumites are near extinction. He'd still rather conquest, hence his name, than, any other. Like, he would still rather take over the universe and eliminate everybody. For his, belief of Viltrum purity.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I thought was interesting, I don't know if it's in the comics or not, but they have there's a point where it's when he's choking Mark to death. He like whispers to him like all of his like own personal like indignities, and like he's like, I don't even get a real name. Like a lot of these like personal feelings about it that are like really sad. And then he says, take that to your grave. And it's just like, oh my gosh. Like, oh, chills, just absolute chills. It's such a fantastic season. First part and the second part. Shout out also to Simu Liu as Multipole. I only remembered Multipole being like a one-note character that reintroduces Duplicate back to the world. Duplicate back to the world. So I did not realize he was like an assassin, and had, like, there was a deeper thread to that I don't recall from the comics that I read years ago, Overall, just like what an outstanding season. Animation still is like pretty top tier. They still do the thing that it bugs me a bit, where like all of a sudden they're like it looks like a freeze frame, or like it's stuttering or you're buffering, and then but there's still music playing, and then it's just like, oh no, they were just doing that for like for some effect, like comic book effect or something. I kept on thinking, like, is this like a frame from the comic book that somebody decided, hey, I really want to put this in here? But overall, yeah. Also, you have Mark's mom moving on. She's dating this other guy now. This is, of course, her serious love interest post Nolan, which she deserves, because she's literally having to raise Nolan's love child from after their marriage. So she gets all the flowers. There's not a world where they can make me hate Mark's mom. Period. This woman has been through everything. She has been through everything. She deserves everything. Everything this world has to offer her, she deserves. She can do no wrong in my eyes. Gosh, I love her. And also, just like the casting continues to be perfect. Voice casting is awesome. Aaron Paul does a beautiful version of his character because his character just like yells a lot. And if you remember the scene from Breaking Bad where he goes, he can't keep getting away with it. That's like his note for like a lot of this episodes he's in. He'll like talk normally about stuff, but whenever he's in his villain mode, that's just the voice he's in. And it works perfectly for the character. Because yeah, also, this is also one of the things where it's like Mark is trying to do the right thing with this villain, and the villain's own actions escalate things to the point where the villain does more hurt to themselves, like emotionally and mentally. And Mark's just like, I'm sorry. And it's like, there's no sorry for this, Mark. Like, you didn't necessarily do anything wrong, but he's going to blame you for it. And you have to accept that. He's just going to blame you for it. And that's something that's interesting, seeing Mark have to grapple with morally. Like, he can handle people who he's done something wrong or he couldn't save. But for it to escalate to this point, like with this guy, it's like, you're not to blame here, Mark. This isn't on you. But it is. It's also like the ramifications he couldn't stop his dad before they went to Chicago, like before Chicago got hit by their fight. And it's Mark dealing with the reality, like going to the memorial, not as Invincible, but as Mark Grayson. Dealing with these things on like a deeply emotional level that is kind of this weight that's been on him since the end of season 1 that continues to weigh on him. This is the second half of the season is where he's adjusted to the weight. The weight's still on him, and it's never going to leave him, but he's adjusted to it. And then the Invincibles invade and just destroy the world, like destroy all these cities. You get to see, shout out to, I forgot the name of the guy who voices Mark.
Stephen Yeun.
Thank you. Yeah, Stephen Yeun. Shout out to Stephen Yeun this season for getting to be all the different Marks. There's a lot of like very fun voices he got to do for these different Invincibles. That's just a lot of fun. They were very entertaining. And I enjoyed it, like when the Invincibles all got together and like, yeah, some of them, one of the characters was like, yeah, hey, first off, like one of them was like, mom's not here. I wanted to kill her. One of the guys is like, hey, some of us didn't hate mom or try to kill mom. And they're like, oh yeah, soft boy, like really nailing it. Like they had different reactions to it. I am sad that they kill off, Mustache Mark, very similar to the way they do in the comics, very much off screen. I always like really enjoy Viltrumite Mark. Cause it's just, he's funny with a little mustache. Not the little mustache, just a small mustache. It's great stuff. Overall, what a phenomenal season. I am very excited. They introduced some stuff. They're going to go very differently with season 4, and they already announced it. Robert Kirkman mentioned that they're doing an original plot line for season 4. That's going to be digging deeper into kind of the Hellman stuff that we got in season 1. And kind of like some stuff in relation to that. Like, what does it mean? They introduced like a Hellboy-esque detective character in season 1.
Darkman, you mean?
Darkman, thank you. Darkman in season 1, and then we have a follow-up to it now where, there's being payoff for Darkman. And what the idea of an existence of a hell dimension means. So apparently that's going to be part of next season. It was teased at the end of this season. But yeah, we also have the really cool fight scene where Eve and Oliver are trying to help Mark versus Conquest, and shit goes bad.
It doesn't go well, yeah.
Yeah. Gosh, I freaking loved it. I loved it. This season, Conquest was one of the things where I'm like, that could make or break this series for me, because I need this fight to go so well. Because it does really just come out of nowhere at you in the comic book. And so it really needs to come out of nowhere in the show, and it does. And the exhilaration of the like danger factor going from, it was already at like an 8 with the Invincible Marks, all the different invasion of the Invincibles, went back down to like a 3, and now we're shooting up to a 15. And that sudden scale adjustment always made me feel like reeling when I read it. Like when I first read it, I felt reeled by it. I was like, this can't be happening. Like, we just have all these Invincibles invade. Like, this can't be happening. That same feeling I felt with with Conquest's appearance in the show.
It's one of the great things that like Invincible did that shined a light on like, oh, we've like in the week to week or month to month comics of like your Supermans, your Batmans stuff, we kind of forget like the real toll that would be taken if like all of the things that happen in those series happen to a community or happen to a planet, and so Invincible really leaning into the profound cost of this Invincible war, immediately followed up by another world altering threat and stuff like that, in a way that even the MCU is kind of like, oh yeah, everybody kind of disappeared for 5 years, but we've moved on, and then a celestial being tried to like break free from the Earth's crust, but we've moved on. I like that the series and the original comics kind of like sit with that, or like force the audience to kind of confront that, like, oh yeah, things don't let up. Like there's no reprise or downtime or just kind of breath. Like shit just follows and follows and follows, and Mark is constantly on the move.
I will say also the weight of, oh hey, yeah, by the way, the two characters that Mark tries to save and then have his dad just like blow them apart, and he's holding like the body pieces. Yeah, we're gonna give you their loved ones. These people that were just like kind of no names that you're like, well, it was violence for violence sake. And Robert Kirkman's like, no, they were real people. They had family that loved and cared about them, and that family wants revenge.
Yep. Nope, that just created a new villain origin story, quite literally.
It's just like, and I'm like, I love that. I love that Robert Kirkman also talks about, like in this series really goes into heavily, the cyclical nature of crime and super crime and what that does to people in a community. Machine Head's neighborhood now being like a neighborhood on the rise under, what's his name? Titan. The guy who covers himself with rocks. Mm-hmm. Like it's very much, and then what does that mean though? It turns out, Machine Head was, he was under somebody else's thumb. And there's a great confrontation between Machine Head and Titan where Machine Head goes, oh yeah, you thought you could crawl out from under my thumb, not realizing there was a bigger thumb waiting for you. Like, there's always a bigger thumb. And the whole Machine Head, Titan using Invincible again plotline in this season, in season 3, part 2, fantastic. Nailed it. Also, yeah, just showing kind of the limitations of what superhumans can do against street level crime. Mark has been elevated to world-ending events. Well, what happens when there's a callback to when he was trying to handle more street level stuff and didn't go well? Literally ended with him with his internal organs being forced out of him by Battle Cat, or I think it's Battle Beast. Sorry, Battle Beast showing up again the same way he does in the comics. Out of like, oh, he's the scary thing that they kept locked up that was scarier than Norman. Awesome. Alan the Alien continues to be goated. You gotta love Alan. He's great, even though Seth Rogen's voicing him. Would have been better as Greg Miller, just my personal opinion. That being said, Alan the Alien's great. I love Alan. Oh yeah, the Viltrumites. Oh dude, I totally forgot about how Viltrumites were on the verge of extinction. It's been years since I thought about that plot point, and like I should know it because like the second half of the Invincible comic book is all about that. But like I forgot about it for some reason, and so when Nolan drops it, I was like, oh god, that's right. There won't be any backup. There won't be any reinforcements.
They do a great job in the comics, and I imagine here, where like you hear the original story, and then you hear like the story behind the story, and then you hear the story behind that story, and it's like you're constantly peeling back the layers on like what's the actual truth, what is the current real state of the Viltrumites. Oh, there's like less than 50 of them left. Ooh, yeah, but you don't get that in the first couple of versions. You get the like Viltrumites are heroes, then you get like the Viltrumites are conquest, and now you get the here's why Viltrumites are like planetary conquest because we've killed ourselves to the point that like
of extinction. And the fact, like, and this is the crazy thing about Mark ends up becoming super important to the Viltrumite cause because turns out humanity is the perfect, the quote unquote impurity range for humans is respectable. enough when facing extinction. They like humanity is an exceptional range.
Yeah.
Very much though, like as we know, Oliver's not considered part of that.
Nope. Yep. They will not take Oliver's bug people DNA into consideration. Yeah.
Which is crazy too, because if you think about it, they could grow so many more Viltrumites if they were okay with it, but they're not.
Yep.
This is the whole thing about like racism is not practical at whatsoever. I loved it. Gosh, I like every time Invincible comes back, I'm like, I'll get to it eventually. And then once I start, I'm like, I'm not stopping. I binged all of it one night. I was like, this is the best. I freaking love Invincible so much. There's a reason why it's one of both of our favorite comic books of all time. You literally have all the omnibuses behind you down there. Yep. Like just talk about like an incredible series that like, I know people love The Walking Dead. This to me is Robert Kirkman's magnum opus is Invincible. I think that is just so much better than The Walking Dead.
Can't get it on the, I can get it on the Discord, but it doesn't get in the frame of the glasses,
oh yeah.
really.
Trevor was trying to show off his,
adjust my camera.
Yeah. His, it's the trilogy, right? The Omnibus trilogy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is also crazy because like digitally I had collected a bunch of stuff that also was like Invincible tie-ins to the other IDW comics. It's like, to me, it's a little sad because IDW comic properties got kind of like sold off to different places. One of my favorite IDW comics is actually like, they tried to make a movie out of it for Cartoon Network and that didn't go well. Because they just tried to make him a kaiju rather than a dragon. Anyway, there's a lot of like really cool stuff in the IDW catalog that never, like, it's sad that we're never going to really get to see fully fleshed out. So I'm just grateful for Invincible.
Yeah.
The fact that Invincible is so damn good. The adaptation is perfect. It's also what's great is we don't get the very now controversial domestic abuse storyline with Amber. Yeah. That is not happening, apparently. It didn't show up happening here. We meet her boyfriend, who instead of being an abusive asshole, is actually super chill dude. Also, big fan of Seance Dog.
Yeah, I saw that clip too.
Yeah, just love it. Also love that they were getting more Seance Dog, like, ever since he showed up and like being like, oh, Seance Dog, my comic. Like, first off, the fact that superheroes are normal, which means magic is the cool comic book thing, awesome. Mm-hmm. Very similar to how much I appreciated pirates were the cool thing for in Watchmen.
Yep, I was thinking the same thing.
Just like, I love that idea of like, no, comic books are still real. There's not superheroes. Superheroes are mundane. We're not going to cover superheroes in comic books. Comic books are about the fantastical.
There was a, I didn't mention it when we did our D+ show on Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, but there seemed to be a like nod to the Watchmen pirate subplot thing.
I think so, yeah.
There was a bus ad for like Pirate Dead Redemption 2 or something. It was basically like Red Dead Redemption, but instead of cowboys, it was pirates. And I was like, oh, that's
I love that. I love the idea of comic books being still a cool thing in superhero stuff, just not superheroes.
Yeah.
Just awesome stuff. Yeah, so Invincible, absolutely nailing it. So good. Can't recommend it enough. Especially now that
all the season's out.
Yeah, all season 3 is out. Go watch. If you haven't ever watched it, you're listening at this point, us ranting and raving about it. Like, how can you have not stopped this podcast to just go watch it? Like,
yeah, I saw rumors or speculation maybe that they're going to do another like standalone story focused on Rex, like they did with the Adam Eve one.
So yeah, because both Adam Eve and Rex had standalone comics that were kind of like their quote unquote origin story. Adam Eve's we got to see animated. With how season 3 ends, Rex would be a really cool one because that also kind of gives a lot more of a backstory. He makes mention to it in season 3, but similar to how he mentioned it, it's not the real story of what happened. So it's interesting because Rex's origin story is still like one of the saddest.
Yeah. People are, I think people picked apart the little teaser trailer they've done the last couple seasons with like Mark and Cecil at the diner. Like in the season 2 trailer, they had like Adam Eve was like in a booth behind, and then they had like Angstrom Levy as like the big bad in another booth to kind of like foreshadow what they were going to do. And then I think they had the same kind of thing here, where instead of Adam Eve, it was Rex, and then I think instead of Angstrom Levy, it was Conquest, I think, or something in that
similar
vein
to that,
of like kind of if you extrapolate the little Easter eggy things they threw in there, it would, match up that they're going to do a Rexplode standalone.
Well,
thing, so.
yeah, Rexplode is one of those characters where once you start getting his redemptive story, his arc, and then you get what happens at the end of season 3, it's like, I mean, badass dude, badass guy.
Have we, and I imagine it just hasn't happened yet, but you mentioned Robot and Monster Girl with like the belt. They haven't been sucked back into the quick dimension yet. Okay,
nope, not yet.
That's one of my favorite subplots is like
when
we find out everything that happened while they were there. Yeah,
and like why they're not together when they come out of there.
Yep.
That's definitely one of those that it's like, oh yeah, no, that's one of those things too. Invincible. Robert Kirkman just does storytelling, especially long form storytelling, so well that I love Invincible. I love that we're also getting a like fresh plot line to give us a little bit of a breather from post Conquest, because I think post Conquest it goes straight into the Viltrumite War plot. And so I'm hoping we can get a bit more of a breather before we run into that.
Yeah, and I think they're probably also leaning into, well, people have really liked when we've done like different things for the boys. So yeah, let's probably try and do a different take on this. In that both of those series, we're kind of picking apart superheroes before that kind of became the norm that we've seen the last 15 years.
Absolutely.
So yeah, getting to see like an updated take on the picking apart of superhero stuff. It'll be interesting to see where
with the boys getting an updated like look at like Butcher just being a total sociopath doesn't work to make him a compelling character, and so giving him like there's certain things they do about the boys that it's good.
I'm certainly more speaking to the boys leaning fully into like the MCU DCUification of superhero-dom that you couldn't have really like anticipated or seen in the original.
Because in the original comics, it was much more about ad deals and stuff like that. The big movie stuff and like the things they do to play into that aspect of it is that modern take on what was going on in the comic books at the time. But yeah, it's been updated completely.
Yeah.
Also, it's unrealistic in like the modern surveillance age for the mass debauchery that occurs in the comics to be realistic. And so we get more of these like segmented off debaucherous things instead. And then on the flip side of that with Invincible, it really is much more about like dissecting the ideas of superheroes being people. And like what kind of trials and traumas that come with that.
Yeah.
Especially with kids. That's a big one too. It's like they're really hammering on like we don't want kids to be superheroes. And when you're like, well, why not? It's like, because you see what happened to Rexplode and you see what happens to like other kids who were heroes. Things don't go well for them. Monster Girl's a great example of that. Monster Girl was basically had to accept that she will never grow old. She'll always be a child for forever. Because it's not good. Her power is not good. But she was like a superhero, so she did it anyway. You have a lot of like Shrink Ray is another one where she talks about how growing up, like her parents basically quit to become her full-time like superhero support team, and like how it like messed her up. A lot of stuff like that.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that's going to do it for this episode. Thank you, Cam, for chatting Invincible with me and letting me rant about Monster Hunter Wilds for a little bit there.
Absolutely.
You can follow, or let's go around the metaphorical table with our plugs. You can follow Cameron at revcabot.bsky.social. Anything you want to give a shout out to there, Cam?
Yeah, I want to give a massive shout out to our last Dat D Plus show. We went over Moana 2. Had a bit of a fun breaking down from from your perspective as somebody who watched it, for the first time versus me, somebody who's seen it a couple of times. And saw it originally in theaters, and kind of comparing and contrasting our That D Plus show kind of format compared to the That Nerdy Site spoiler cast that we had.
Yeah.
So,
well, we didn't do a spoiler cast because I hadn't seen it.
Yeah, review. Sorry.
Yep, indeed. You can follow me at trevorjstarkey.bsky.social. In addition to last week's That D Plus show, you can check out next week's That D Plus show, where we will return to Win or Lose now that Pixar's series has completely wrapped up. So we'll talk about all of that, and then also the big thing for me My birthday on Wednesday this week will also coincide with the launch of a new or a limited run, big old epic writing thing, basically 40 years in gaming, where I will be going through over a 10-part series, 4 years each part, my favorite game, and a few honorable mentions for games that were released each year of my 40 years of life thus far. So basically going through 1985 all the way up through last year, 2024. Not going to worry about 2025 just yet. But yeah, so stay tuned for that. Big old, I'm up at like 60 some odd pages thus far. Still got a few more years to write myself, but that will all start dropping on Wednesday. It's basically going to be 4 years a day for 10 days. Starting on the 19th. So stay tuned for that on the website, thatnerdysite.com. You follow all of us over at That Nerdy Site or go to thatnerdysite.com for all the latest from us. Once again, if you liked what you heard, please remember to rate, review, like, subscribe, share the podcast with your friends, all that fun stuff. Thank you for listening. As always, stay nerdy and be good to each other.